I have noticed that many tend to neglect or abandon the pages whenever an unpleasant piece of clarity is about to emerge. And I guess that's what was happening for me as well. Hello, hello. Welcome to week 4. This week has been, I feel like I say this every video. It has been interesting, but that's because it is. Like, this journey is, yeah, very enlightening and uncovering. And just because you're tracking everything based on this book and the questions and the tasks and the reading and the journaling in the morning, like, you really see the changes happening. Like, you can really tell how it aligns with what she's saying in the chapters. So in week 4, you are recovering a sense of integrity. And it says, this week may find you grappling with changing self-definition. The essays, tasks, and exercises are designed to catapult you into productive introspection and integration of self-awareness. This may be both very difficult and extremely exciting for you. Warning, do not skip the tool of reading deprivation. So in this week, you are supposed to not read anything the entire week. Not like, I don't know, threats or, messages, but like a book or an essay or something like that. But in general, just stepping back from reading in general. So I try to do that as well, like less threats and less, messages or whatever. But I did manage to not read a book or an essay or something else. And I think it is more so because you are supposed to just be open for what comes through instead of filling it up with other people's ideas. Okay? So another thing that I noticed, which she talks about in that chapter, is as well that it was the first week where I started struggling keeping up with the morning pages. I still did it, but I could tell that I stopped in between them to look on my phone and scroll a little bit. And then the guilt came in and the shame came in. And I was like, I need to finish these 3 pages, or not doing it immediately as the first thing in the morning and like stalling it a little bit, where then it's not going to be the free flowing consciousness journaling anymore. So that was the first week where I noticed that there was a change. And then one sentence that I highlighted, like I did highlight a few things in this book that while I was reading it, I was like, that's interesting. Let's see if that happens. Is I have noticed that many tend to neglect or abandon the pages whenever an unpleasant piece of clarity is about to emerge. And I guess that's what was happening for me as well. So I decided that I do not, at least at this point, want to share anything about my morning pages, also because she says in the book that that's not what we're supposed to be doing. We're not even supposed to like read it back ourselves, because it really is just about it, like letting it go and letting it out. So I can't really tell you about what it is about. I also can't remember because I'm in week 6 now. But I remember that there was the struggle because I felt like more truth is coming out, and a deeper truth, a truth that I was running from, a truth that I didn't want to face, which for me is about taking the responsibility, or having the fear around responsibility that I have to take on when I'm emerging into my artist, when I'm allowing myself to be the artist fully, and what it means to be disciplined as an artist, what it means to be responsible as an artist. Because in my mind and in my head, it was always like this, being an artist is like whimsical and floofy, and, you don't really have to do anything, and you don't have to be responsible, and, all that kind of energy, even though obviously I knew that that's not true. But that was like the dream vision of how I wanted it to be. And that started coming up for me. So like that's what I can share and what I remember. And I thought it was interesting what else like she wrote in that chapter, like be prepared for bursts of tears and of laughter. A certain giddiness may accompany sudden stabs of loss. And I definitely noticed that there were like moments of like just crying out of nowhere, and I didn't know where that was coming from. And even after crying or while crying, there was no clarity necessarily around where that was coming from. I know and I understand that I am in a transition phase, and I think it is all around that. But there was no like real, this is why the tears are coming. This is why I feel sad right now. This is why I need to clear that sadness out, because there was no reason for it, at least not in that moment, or at least not no clarity around it in that moment. So that was tracking for me as well. And then it says there will be change in energy patterns. Your dreams will become stronger and clearer, both by night and by day, which definitely is also a thing that I noticed. More dreams that were revealing things to me that I then wrote about also in the morning pages to get more clarity around this as well. And then also it says that it is normal to yearn for some rest when you are moving so rapidly. And I've been tired. I feel lazy. I feel like I don't have motivation or energy to do anything, which now, like, it really just helped me to now to prepare to do this video, to read through these highlighted sentences, because I felt guilty about this. I felt like, I'm starting week 6, like I'm almost halfway through, like I should be doing something artistic already. I should already be writing more. I should already be doing, more things, and or just in general, like the responsibilities that I have at the moment that I also still feel myself avoiding. But it does make sense when you're working so much on your emotional stuff, on your emotional body, on your emotional labor, like it is exhausting and you need to rest. So I'm grateful that I was able to read through that as well. And then what I loved about that week as well was that it was about looking into your environment, like what serves you the most. Like, do you want to live in a country? Do you want to live in a city? Do you want to live nearby water? Do you want to live near, the center of the city that you're living in or whatnot? And that made me think of human design. I used to read human design, used to read human design for people as a profession, and I am transitioning out of this. But one of the things that in a human design reading, or one of the things that you can read in a chart, is what environment serves you best energetically. And for me, this is shore. So it doesn't have to exactly, or it doesn't have to be living next to the ocean, but this is what calms me the most. Every time by the ocean, I feel a sense of relief. I feel a sense of groundedness. I feel a sense of belonging. I feel a sense of home. But it can also be artificial shore. So it doesn't have to be actual water. It can also just be where two landscapes come together. And for everyone not knowing, I live in Bali, and right behind that phone is just greenery. Like when I look outside of my door, outside of my window front, there is just green. There are just plants and trees and palm trees and bushes. And it's just like a wall of green. And that is just also a different environment that is basically clashing with another environment, which is a shore. Because when you think about it, the beach, it's water clashing with land, right? So that's what it is. And like I was writing about that, and I thought that was really interesting. And then you are supposed to time travel and describe yourself as an 80-year-old person, and then remembering yourself again as an 8-year-old person. Write a letter from you at 8 and from you at 80. Like, what would you tell yourself? What, as an 80-year-old, like, what would you tell yourself how you lived your life? What decisions did you make? And then as an 8-year-old, what would you like to experience? And then checking in with yourself, have you experienced anything of that? So that was just also a very interesting task. And then you are again revisiting your life pie, which I showed you in another video as well, because there was another revision of that. So you visited this again as well. And some other tasks that I thought were interesting as well. For example, like to avoid reading, what else you can do. There's a list like listen to music, make curtains, wash the dog, sort closets, pay bills, write old friends, report some plans. Like it can literally be anything else but that, but the reading, which was a thing that wasn't that difficult for me, even though I do like to read, but I read in waves. Sometimes like when I'm in a wave, I read like 3, 4, 5 books. And then I don't read a book in 4 months or so. So I was in a phase where I'm not reading much at the moment anyway, so that wasn't difficult. But just like, having like a list of what else you could do, because also sometimes of like when you're bored or when you don't know what to do, that list was just like, okay, even though there are like some random things on it, wash the dog. Like, no, not everyone has a dog. I actually do have a dog, and that could have been a thing that I could have done. Another thing that I thought helped me a lot was also the task of like open your closet, throwing out things that you don't need anymore and decluttering, which I usually do quite often. I don't own much stuff anymore because I have been living in Bali for 4.5 years, and I did not accumulate much because I still kept traveling. So everything that I have here basically fits into 2 suitcases. And then I have, I don't know if it's 2 or 3 moving boxes full of like paperwork and some books and some other things, some other clothes that are with my mom. And that's it. I don't own anything else. So it wasn't a big task for me to do that because I do that regularly anyways, but it still is always very liberating and freeing. And then also look at one situation in your life that you feel you should change but haven't yet. What is the payoff for you in staying stuck? So what is the payoff for you to change that, but what is the payoff if you don't change that? Because it helps you to understand the underlying reason why you are not changing your life, the underlying reason that keeps you stuck, and why your subconscious decides to stick with that. And when you uncover this and then can debunk it, because you will realize how that does not really make sense. Yes, it makes sense to the extent that maybe the answer is it keeps you safe in the moment. But when you realize that on the long run, it will not keep you safe because you will continuously live a life that you don't want to live, you can debunk that. And this is the first step of realizing how you can actually change your ways, and then hopefully make that step to change that habit and therefore change that part of your life. So I was reflecting on a lot of things like that during that week, and I was able to change a few things. Now reflecting back, almost like starting week 6 now, so like it's 1.5 weeks later, or basically 2.5 weeks later, because you read that in the before you start the work, right? I haven't made all of the changes that I wanted to do. So it is also beautiful for me to do these videos right now, because it really, I'm checking in with myself. Like, have you actually continued the work besides just reading and doing the tasks? But have you actually, like, did you stick to the changes that you made? And I can see there now that I did not stick to all of them. So I want to revisit that and do that more intentionally. A lot also changed in my life when it comes to like what is next, which I'm not going to go into now because it happened in week 5 for me. So I'm going to talk about this in the next video. So stay tuned. I am not going back to Germany, but I'm also not going to stay in Bali. So if you are following, I created a GoFundMe to help me relocate my dog to Germany. And now the things have changed a little bit. We're still going, but not to Germany anymore. but also not staying in Bali. So the GoFundMe is still up. I still need that money to finish that process to get my dog out of Bali. So if you feel inclined to help, every dollar helps really. Like, even if you can just spare like literally $1 or like five or maybe 10 or maybe more, I will be so grateful. So the link is in the description. I would be forever grateful. And maybe you can also share it with some other dog lovers and some people that want to help. I would highly appreciate it. And other than that, please like, share, comment, subscribe. There's so much more that I'm planning to do with this YouTube channel that I think will be interesting to you. If you like liked my past content and like this series, it will definitely be for you. So come along, and I see you next week. Bye.